Okay, so this is our last section of Chapter 5 and our last section for the semester. So we're going to look at dividing polynomials. So think about dividing. So remember division or division or division. So you're going to see it three ways. So first we're going to divide a monomial. So remember a monomial is just one term, like 2x. It is a term. So we're just going to divide monomials. So a plus b over c is equal to a over c plus b over c. You can separate these because c belongs to both of the numbers in the numerator. So this is why the rule works. So if I can use that rule and I can separate these three pieces, so that's negative 12a cubed, that's 36a, and that's negative 15. I can separate them, and they all share the same denominator. Because remember, as long as their denominators are the same, you can add them together in the top. So if I do that, it looks like that, just as I had written it. And then you simply reduce one piece at a time. So negative 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I'm going to write it over here. So that's 4. And then remember, this is a 1. So we're going to subtract a 1 from both. So that's 4a squared. So negative 4a squared. Over here, these a's are exactly the same, so they simply cancel out. And I'm left with 36 divided by 3, which is 12. And then over here, there is not an a, so I know I'm going to be left with an a in the denominator because there's not an a here, so there's no way to simplify this a. 3 goes into itself once, it goes into 15 5 times, so 5 over a. And that is your answer. So separate into pieces. So you got 1, 2, 3 pieces, so you should have 3 fractions. And then you simplify each fraction as its own, and then put them all together for your answer. So if I was going to do the same thing here, I'm going to separate it. So 12x cubed y cubed, negative 18xy, and positive 6y, and it all gets the same denominator. And now we are going to simplify each piece. So 12 divided by 3, and I'll do it over here and then reveal here. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. There's a 1 here, so if I subtract 1 and subtract 1, I get x squared, and that's a 1, so I'm going to subtract a 1 from both, so that's y squared. Now I've got minus 3 goes into itself once, it goes into 18 6 times, so minus 6. The x's are going to cancel out, and so do the y's because they're the same. So this first term becomes 4x squared y squared. The second term, it just is 6. And then over here, the y's cancel. 3 goes into itself once, it goes into 6 2 times. So I have a 2 in the top and an x in the bottom. So plus 2 over x. And there is your answer. Separate and simplify. Now what about using long division? Remember long division? Like if you have 7 into, I don't know, let's say 721. 7 goes into 7 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract it. Bring down the 2. 7 does not go into 2. So since 7 does not go into 2, 0 times 7 is 0. So that's 2. Bring down the 1. 7 goes into 21 3 times. So your answer is 103. Okay, so we're going to use long division. So here's a really long one. So you divide the 43 into 72. It goes in one time. 43 times 1 is 43, so subtract it. So subtract 43, you get 29, bring down the 5. Now 43 will go into 295 6 times. So then you distribute that back, so that's 295 here. And then 6 times 43 is 258, so you subtract it. 295 minus 258 is 37, and you bring down the 6. 43 goes into 376 8 times, and then you multiply 43 times 8, you get 344, and you subtract it, and you're left with a remainder of 32. So you write it as 168, because that's the whole number up here. Your remainder is your numerator, and your dividend is your denominator. So that would be your answer. So that's what we're going to do with exponents and variables. So as you can see from the previous example, there is a pattern in log division. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Repeat these steps until you're done. So for example, we have this. So they have all the steps over here. I'm not even going to move them. I'm just going to leave them right there. So I'm going to work this out. I need to bring this down just a smidge. Okay. So the way you do this is you take the first term. Don't worry about the 3. What do I need to multiply 7x by to get 28x squared? So 7 times what is 28? 4. X times what will give me x squared? Well, x times x gives you x squared. So now multiply the 4x by the 7x. So 4x times 7x is 28x squared. 4 times 3 is 12x. So now you divide it in, and then you multiply it back just like we did with the 7. So once you get these, then the biggest thing you have to make sure that you do is change your signs. So this will become negative, this will become negative. Cancel. Negative 23 minus 12 is negative 35x. Now repeat the process. 7 will go into 35 negative 5 times. So 7 times 5 is 35. 7x times 5 is 35x. So negative 5 times 7 is negative 35, and I'm going to trade colors. So that's negative 35x. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And then we have that negative 15 here. I forgot to bring it down. Change your signs. So always make sure, divide it in, multiply it back, change your signs. Bring it down. That cancels, remainder 0. So that means your answer is 4x minus 5. 7x plus 3 will go into 28x squared minus 23x minus 15, 4x minus 5 times with no remainder. These will take a little bit of practice. So notice the division process is continued until the degree of the remainder polynomial is less than the degree of the divisor. So we're going to do this one. So looking at the 2 is the only one you have to worry about, 2x. Okay, so 2x will go into 4x squared how many times? Well, 2 times what is 4? X times what is x squared? So once you figure out what goes here, then multiply it back. No, it's not an x squared, sorry. Thinking ahead. So 2 times 2 is 4. X times x is x squared. So multiply it back. So we got 4x squared. 2 times 7 is 14x. Next step, make sure, change your signs. Minus, minus. Because you want that to cancel out. That's the whole point. So negative 6 minus 14 is negative 20x. Bring down the 8. So now 2 will go into negative 20, negative 10 times. Now multiply back through. Negative 10 times 2 is negative 20x. Negative 10 times 7 is negative 70. Change your signs. So that becomes plus. Cancel. Well, 8 plus 70 is 78. Well, there's nothing to bring down, so that means this is your remainder. So you take your remainder and you add it with the number over to the side as your denominator. And this is your answer. Let me erase that because that didn't work out. There's your answer. So once there's nothing to bring down, then you just flat out have your remainder. Bring it to the top over 2x plus 7. And if you think about the previous example where we had the remainder with that long division problem, that was numbers. The remainder was your numerator, and then the 43 was your denominator. And that is how you do those. Make sure that if you have questions that you ask them on Tuesday or Thursday and that you are prepared. And I will talk to y'all soon.